All right, so for number 2, we're trying to find what additional information we need based on the shortcut provided. So we're looking at angle, angle, side. So here the side is not in between the two angles. So here we're given an angle at W, and that corresponds to the angle at E. We have the side WV is congruent to the side DE. So we have a side. Now the hard part is figuring out which angle do we have. Do we have the angle that's connected to the side, or do we have the angle that's not connected to the side? So if we're looking at the shortcut, this is the angle that's not connected, and this is the angle that is connected. So which angle you want depends on which angle you have. And so to figure that out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pen on the tick marks, and I'm going to go to the end point. I get angle W. So I have the angle that is connected to the side. If we put our pen on the tick marks and I go to the end point, I have angle E. That is the angle connected to the side. So the one that I want is the angle that is not connected to the side. All right? So to figure out the angle that is not connected to the side, I'm going to go back to my tick marks and I'm going to go to the other end point. I do not want angle V. I do not want an angle connected to the side, which means I do want angle X for my second angle. I'm going to go, for the second triangle, I'm going to go to my tick marks. I'm going to go to the other end point. I do not want angle D, which means I do want angle F. So I want angle X to be congruent to angle F. Okay, are there any questions on that? One of the challenges here is identifying what you do have so that you can correctly identify what you want. Okay, we're going to zoom on over to number 4. And here we want angle, side, angle. So we have angle S is congruent, this angle here. So this angle is angle FST is congruent to this angle. 2 arcs go with 2 arcs. So that's angle UTS. So I have one of the angles. Now, both of the angles are connected to the side, so it doesn't matter. I've got one of them. Okay. Do I have a side? Yes, it's that shared side right there. So that's our shared side reflexive property. I don't need that. I know that's true. So I have the side, shared side reflexive property. What I want is the angle on the other end point. So if I look at this end point for the double arcs, I want to travel along my congruent side to the other end point. I want this at point T, this angle here. I'm going to put 1 arc. So it's going to be angle FTS. So now I'm going to go to the top triangle. I'm going to look at my congruent side. I see at the end point T, I have 2 arc marks, so angle UTS is already given. So I'm going to go to the other end point, which is over here at point S, and I want this one here, which is angle UST. Right? So when the angles surround the side, at each endpoint you should have a congruent angle for each triangle. Okay? All right. Any questions with number 4? Okay. Number 5 and 6, it's all written out, and you have to draw the triangles, mark what you're given, and then get what you want. This is the format, how this type of problem shows up on the unit test. They're not going to have pictures, okay? You'll have to draw it out. So we have 2 different triangles. We have triangle ABC and triangle DEF. So I would start off by drawing those 2 triangles, ABC, DEF. I would make them look similar, So, well, we want them to be congruent. Not always perfect. But if you draw it scalene, where all the sides are different, it's easier to see which one goes with which one. And if you draw it in the same orientation, again, it's easier to match parts. So A goes with D, B goes with E, and C goes with F. So I'm just going to put those in the correct spots. Then we mark our given. So given segment AB is congruent to segment DE. So that is one tick mark goes with one tick mark. So those are my congruent segments. And angle A is congruent to angle D. So one arc mark goes with one arc mark. We have to identify what additional information would be necessary to prove that the triangles are congruent using side, angle, side. I have a side and I have an angle, which means I want the other side that is surrounding the angle. All right. To identify this, I'm going to put my pen on the vertex of the angle at point A. The side I already have is AB, so I'm going to go to the other side of the angle, which is AC. Right? So think about it like an alligator mouth, right? It's got a top jaw and a bottom jaw. We already have the top jaw. We want the bottom jaw. Okay, so then I'm going to go to my vertex of the second triangle at point D. I already have the top jaw, DE, so I want the bottom jaw, DF. Okay. Are there any questions? You can do this problem without drawing it out, but it is a lot harder. You're trying to like map these things out in your brain and keep them in order with all these different points and corresponding parts. When in doubt, draw it out. If you're not given a picture, draw it out. Okay? It always makes it easier, especially in geometry when you're trying to keep track of multiple things. Let's go to number 6. We have two triangles, triangle PQR and triangle XYZ. They don't need to be any different than what we did before. I'm going to draw the same triangles. I'm just going to name them differently. So this is P, Q, and R. And then I'm going to do another scalene triangle that looks real similar because I'm human and not drawing the exact same thing, X, Y, Z. And then you just want to double check. P goes with X, Q goes with Y, R goes with Z. They're in the same location. We're all ready to go. So we are given segment PQ is congruent to XY. Here is segment PQ. Here is segment XY. Segments have tick marks, so we have our first set of segments, and this is number 1. And QR is congruent to YZ. This is my second set of segments, so now I have 2 tick marks. So we have QR is congruent to YZ. So again, making sure that we mark them correctly is helpful. And again, we're doing side, angle, side. I have 2 sets of sides. We have 1 tick mark and we have 2 tick marks. So what I'm looking for is the angle in between 1 and 2. So I'm going to go from 1 tick mark straight to 2 tick marks, and I trace over angle Q is congruent to, and then for this one over here, we're going from 1 tick mark straight to 2 tick marks, and I cross over angle Y. So we want angle Q is congruent to angle Y. Now this one is a little bit easier to do without drawing. When you're given the 2 sides, you want the included angle, which means it is the point that is included in both sides. Look here, point Q, point Q. That's going to be my included angle. Here we have point Y, point Y. That's included in both sides. And so that one's a little bit easier to bring the information and identify what's included in between the two sides. But again, when in doubt, draw it out. Always a lot easier to draw it out, okay?